In a forgotten village on the outskirts of Novodari, there were several old, abandoned houses, covered in ivy and shrouded in mystery. The people of Novodari whispered about them, claiming they were cursed. They said that no one should go near those places. A young woman named Andrea, naturally curious and fascinated by the history of the abandoned places, decided to explore these ancient houses one starry night. As she made her way towards the crumbling buildings, a cold wind blew over her, and the full moon seemed to be her only companion. When she arrived at one of the old houses, Andrea felt an unsettling chill run down her spine. The door creaked loudly as she pushed it open and stepped into the dark interior. Dust and shadows filled the room. The moonlight timidly filtered through the broken windows. On the walls there were remnants of old, distorted photographs of a family that had once lived there. As she explored the rooms, Andrea discovered a dusty journal left on a rusted table. Carefully opening it, she read about a family devastated by an inexplicable tragedy. Family members had disappeared one by one during a terrible storm. The last page was written in a trembling hand. Someone had sought the aid of dark forces to bring their loved ones back. Suddenly a strange noise echoed from behind her, a sharp breath or a faint murmur. Andrea spun around and found the door she had entered through now tightly shut. Panic set in, and she began knocking on the doors of the other rooms, but no one answered. Her concern grew when she heard voices coming from a room at the back. Voices she recognized from her childhood. They were members of her family who had recently perished in a tragic accident. Confronted with images from the past and deep doubts, Andrea moved toward the source of the sounds. What she found there made her heart race. The shadows of the lost families were gathered in a tight circle. A dark entity controlled their fate, and their destiny struck terror into her. Their souls were trapped, restless, and unredeemable. Desperate voices begged for her help to release them. With her heart pounding, Andrea glanced at the dusty journal. Her mind fought between the desire for salvation and the overwhelming fear of what could either lead to victory or total destruction. She realized that the only way to break the curse was to read aloud the sacred words that began after sunset, forbidden rituals to summon the light. Turning towards the group of desperate shadows, she began to read aloud the words from the journal. But before the spell could fully take hold, her family members' figures began to tremble violently. The spirits grew hostile as painful memories erupted like uncontrollable fires. Risking everything to save them, this act became a battle against the demonic forces. After an intense struggle, the poetic words finally took effect, and the painful shadows began to vanish before Andrea's eyes. But something sinister sought revenge. Then the door swung open abruptly. The darkness had risen. Andrea stood frozen at the threshold of reality. Many years later, the locals still tell the story of a girl who tried relentlessly to save the suffering of the past, but she never succeeded. It is said that sometimes at night, you can feel a cold shiver, carrying cursed echoes coming from the forgotten house, bodies slipping through the thorny branches, always pulling you closer.